Welcome to the Business of Hollywood podcast. This is a show featuring insider advice from Hollywood for today's entrepreneurs. Working actors make up less than 10% of the acting population. They have to deal with rejection, network, brand themselves, market themselves, and sell themselves. And today's entrepreneurs have to do all the same things. If they can make it in Hollywood, you can make it as an entrepreneur. Today, I'm discussing how to reimagine and reinvent yourself with my guest, Natalia Castellanos. Natalia is a bilingual actor, director, producer, and voice artist whose work spans film, television, commercials, and voiceover. What sets Natalia apart is not just the breadth of her credits, but the intentionality behind them. She has built a full-time acting career by staying grounded, staying curious, and never being afraid to ask herself the harder questions about growth and reinvention. Currently, she is developing the adaptation of The Sun and The Void as an executive producer and one of the founders behind an upcoming creative community dedicated to mentorship for Latinos in the entertainment industry. We dive into topics including the importance of self-awareness and how to develop yours, the difference between forced and chosen reimagining, the one thing above all else that you need to do to successfully reimagine and reinvent yourself, and other golden nuggets of advice. You're going to love this show. Natalia, thank you for making time for the Business of Hollywood podcast. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
And we're going to be talking about reimagining yourself before we get into some of the tips, the tricks, the strategies, things like that. When it comes and also the parallels between becoming a working actor and becoming an entrepreneur. With your story, though, reimagining yourself immediately popped up before we hit record. What's your story there? Why is that so important to you?
I think it's important to me because of the way I grew up. I grew up always having to reimagine myself, always moving around to different countries. My dad was a diplomat, so we traveled a bunch, always having to learn new cultures, new ways of living, new ways of having to connect to other humans. And I'm always in that edge of trying to guess is not really the right word, but always trying to figure out how to approach each person, because each person's going to be so different based on their background and where they grew up or how they've interacted with other people before, and what the circumstance around all of that is. So reimagining myself always has been, I think, a part of me without actually fully knowing it.
Well, with that being said, in your adult life, when did it become a conscious effort of realizing, okay, either it was forced on you and you had to adapt, or you just chose it's time to reimagine myself? When did it become a conscious effort for you?
I think it became conscious when I came to this country to go to college, and seeing how things were done in the US versus a lot of the other countries that I had lived in. And I think at that level, I was already mature enough to consciously pick up patterns and seeing the way things happen for me to be able to make that a conscious effort, in the sense of being like, oh, I see what's happening. I need to adjust this way. Or, oh, wait, that didn't fall the way I thought it was going to be, kind of fall, let's say, a conversation or an interaction. And then I start because I always like to take responsibility. I am a person that has learned that human nature tends to be that we are reactive, and we tend to, if something doesn't sit right with us, we fight it and we're like, why did you, blah, 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 right? And I think during that growth of seeing how others interact, it was more about what is happening to me? Why am I wanting to react to something in a certain way? Whether it was, let's say, an interaction that I didn't think was possible, to be more conscious as far as, oh, it's affecting me because I feel like they're talking down to me, or I feel like I'm not smart enough in this moment. And what about them is causing me to feel that? And I know that happens in a split second in my mind now, but it's something that I'm conscious of trying to always do, and see how I can, and our topic today, reimagine myself as far as even the way I interact in a situation. Um, and, you know, I feel like that has caused me to be more truthful toward people in the sense of not feeling as embarrassed if I don't know something, or if they're making you feel like, how do you not know this? Or why shouldn't you have known this? And I'm like, you know what? That's okay. Like, I don't know everything. And this is where I get interested, and I'm like, well, tell me about it. And that's how I think it starts breaking some of the boundaries with others. So that's kind of how I live my life as much as possible. Now, granted, we are human. There's times that I can be reactionary, but I really try to go back into introspection and think about why it's affecting me and what's causing me to feel that in that moment.
You mentioned breaking boundaries with others. Unpack that a little bit. What do you mean?
Well, I think, you know, in especially now in the whole time of in the world of social media where everything is a facade, breaking boundaries to me with others is being truthful and real, right? That we all have we're all human. We all bleed the same. You know, we go to the bathroom. We have these basic needs. We eat, we breathe, and breaking through of being like, I'm just as flawed as you, but how can we together create this beautiful thing and lift each other up? Um, and you know, a lot of times it's hard because there's people that put up these walls that don't want to let somebody in, that don't want to, you know, because of whatever they've gone through, and their past history. And so there's always this delicate balance and dance between two people. And to me, breaking through is being able to be human, and be able to have an honest, truthful conversation. So I personally do much better when it's a one-on-one situation because I really like to hone in on an individual. In groups, it just feels like my brain is, I think I might have ADHD, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I'm like all over the place and I'm trying to pay attention to so many different people. So I get lost, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does. And well, starting with yourself, when it comes to reimagining, when you realize you have to do it, where does it even begin? I mean, is it introspection or what is it like? Something's going on. I've got to pivot. I've got to reimagine. Where do you start the process?
I think identifying something isn't working, right? Whether it be you're not getting what you need, right? If, for example, I'm trying to, um, uh, I'll give you an acting kind of scenario, right? If, let's say I've had multiple auditions and something within the audition, like I'm not getting to the next step. And now, granted, it's a little harder now with self tapes because you don't have, sometimes your tapes are going to producers, but you don't know that they are. So there's that option. I mean, there's that aspect of it. But it starts with being able to be like, okay, what hasn't been working? I'll rewatch tapes. I will see, no, this is actually working, especially after you get yourself out of the audition process for a bit and disconnect and come back to it. You start noticing either similarities or trends. And that's where, to me, I'm like, that's what I can, I think, work more at. That's where I can like put some of my energy in to focus on, because all we have as humans and as business people is what we can control. We're not going to be able to control everything, but the aspects that you can control, which is how you you know, put yourself forward toward people, how you act towards people, your actual work. If there's something that in any, you know, business that you do, if there's more things you need to learn about to build upon all the knowledge you've had from the past because things have changed, those are things to me, I think, that are extremely important to start doing. And the idea of you never stop learning, because
Oh
as
my
soon as you
gosh, no.
think you stop learning, you will literally plateau. And that's where a lot of the blocks, a lot of the fear of I'm feeling dumb because, you know, they're causing me to feel dumb. And it's like, well, no, get interested, get super excited about and curious about whatever the topic is.
Well, you're an entrepreneur. You have to be an entrepreneur in the world of acting. On the business side of things, can you delve into that a little more? Is it like a rebranding? What you consider? What is it on the business side of things to start to reimagine yourself?
So I think it's funny because a lot of people forget that it's a show business, right? So absolutely, like you said, it is a business within itself. Yes, there's a ton of art, and that is the audition process and what you do for that part of the work, right? But the business side of it is, we have to deal with contracts. We have to deal with agents and managers and lawyers sometimes and casting professionals, right? There's so many other aspects of what that is. And the rebrand is essentially, as we grow into, we've developed different things. So maybe, let's just say, if when I was young, I could play naive, I could still play naive because I'm an actor, but the innate of who I am, if I'm put against somebody who is just naive on their day to day, they're probably going to book that over me, right? And so it's about trying to be like, okay, well, that might not be me now. I am more of a type A personality. I am more, I can play and know all the characters I can play, right? The detectives and the people of power and the mayors and the politicians and all of those type of things. I figure that part out first. Once I figure that out, then I have to also figure out, okay, well, my materials that are my calling cards, which are my headshots and my resume, have to be placed in the right position to help me get to the next level, right? To help me push into that. So if all my materials, if all my headshots show me as a naive person, I'm probably not going to be called in for, the mayor or the special agent or any of that kind of stuff. So my materials have to go into that. So then what happens with that? Clothing, makeup, hairstyles, like all of that is starting to rebrand and push myself. All my marketing materials have to go toward that.
So, what advice that's for the show business side of things? I think you're right. People forget it's show business. Based on reimagining yourself and rebranding, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs to get started? Where does rebranding begin?
And rebranding in any profession, are you talking about, or?
Rebranding as an entrepreneur, it's show business as an actor, but I think a lot of it translates to traditional entrepreneurship also.
Yeah, I think where they want to start is identify, I think it's where do you identify where you want to be and then kind of work backwards, right? If I want to be, a CEO, okay, well, what are the steps to get to be a CEO of a company or a CFO? Or if that doesn't interest you and you just want to be the best manager in your company of, running a few people, like, maybe it's a team of 10 or a team of 20. Well, what are the steps that need to happen to get there? And I think observation is the best thing that you can do at first. Observe others that are in that position that you look up to. Okay, what are the qualities of that person? Can they deal with stress? How do they deal with stress? How do they deal with others from all walks of life and being able to solve their problems? Are they able to give up a little bit of the reins to others to give them possibility to grow? All those things I think are the basis of what can get you to the next step. Is observation has to be the first one. Because if you don't observe what those things are, how do you expect to be able to shift and change within yourself and what you're doing if you're not specific enough? Specificity is the biggest thing. And even in acting, right? When we're breaking down scenes, specificity is the key. And if you don't have specificity in your own life of figuring those things out, I think you're kind of walking in the dark as far as what to expect, what to not expect, right?
Mhm.
And see where you can shift and change. And then possibly have conversations with the right people that you're like, okay, maybe I should go to these sort of events to be able to learn from these people and connect, and maybe a mentorship happens. Little things like that, I think, um, as a type A personality and somebody who actually loves like spreadsheets and all of that kind of stuff too,
Oh,
is I like being able to tick something off and see, oh, wow, I did that. Even if it didn't happen in the way I thought it was going to happen, I was able to talk to blah, blah, blah. I was able to get this thing. Wow, I'm working towards that. And it's all baby steps. Baby steps is the key to getting to the top of the mountain. Don't try to leap. Like that just to me doesn't work.
well, once you take enough baby steps and you're reimagining let's say you're reimagining your personal brand, how do you cement it? How do you know when you found it? So people just start, because I would imagine you could just reinvent yourself again and again and again in perpetuity. How do you know when it's like, okay, I can stop now and really hone a craft? I'm done with the reimagining. What does that cementing a brand look like to you?
Well, I think reimagining always is going to happen, right? But based on what your question is of how do you know that that step or that level has solidified for you to be able to move to the next level? And to me, it's you're comfortable, it's second nature, it's little things that you see yourself actually um, doing that at first you had to think about. It's like learning an accent for us, right? Like for actors, we at the beginning we are really trying to be okay. The R has to be placed here. My mouth position has to be placed there to be able to speak in that dialect. And once I'm able to do it kind of second nature without me thinking about it, I think that's where you're like, awesome. Let me cruise on this for a while and then see where else I can, move or shift and change.
How do you, with that in mind, how do you decide when to reimagine yourself? I mean, from what you just said, it's going to be an iterative process. Is it a certain amount of time? Is it more of, I mean, from two extremes, a certain amount of time to just a gut feeling of, I think I could do something different here. How often do you check in and how often do you think people should be reimagining themselves?
I don't like to put time frames on things, and I do that in the sense that because everybody then thinks, "Oh, if I didn't hit it in 10 years, then I'm a failure." And I don't like putting that on anybody. I don't think that serves anybody. So for me, it's more of check in, maybe, depending on what you're doing, right? Check in every month. How is it going? Check in maybe every quarter. See how what has happened for you to be able to get to that place. Look behind to be able to look forward in the sense that what I mean by that is if I look behind and I'm like, oh, wow, I was able to do this, 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 and this. I've actually done really well right now versus sitting right now just in the present and being like, oh, this sucks. I haven't done anything. Nothing's working. But we forget that a lot of times you have to plant the seed for the flower to grow. The flower is not just going to pop up. And I know that's been said a lot, but I mean, like, that is, I think, it is part of that gut feeling and actually checking in and being honest with yourself. I think honesty is sometimes, a lot of times, um, kind of pushed aside, or somebody is just like overly, and I don't want to, it's, what's the word I'm trying to use, but I feel like when somebody's just like, oh, I'm great at everything. Cool. But and you want to be
Yeah.
positive about what you're great at because we all have those. But if you're only looking at everything that way, then you again sit in the place of not really being open and curious and honest about where you need to move next. And so for me, that has always been the thing of like, yeah, I'm doing really well in this situation. Let's say the last 5 auditions. Wow, I've grown from the last time I did that. Look how much more I've gotten out of my comfort zone to try something new. And by the way, a lot of times you're like, I try these new things because I see somebody else try it. And I'm like, oh, that then spawns a new idea for me to move to the next level or move to the next topic. And so I think that is where we always need to sit is it's a back and forth, right? Checking in and where you're feeling and also seeing all your wins, not just your failures.
Oh, of course. And with the back and forth, from your experience, how much would you, when it comes to reimagining yourself, would you say it happens more oftentimes? It's a forced reimagining or a chosen reimagining? Is it right in the middle? Forced versus chosen reimagining? What's your experience been with that?
I think it's been both, in the sense that sometimes, when I was younger, there was a lot of times that I needed to be told, well, this isn't working. And that forced me to push into new heights and push into new territory. Sometimes it's literally been like, I see, like I said, like I go back and I see things that I did, or I wrote, let's say I wrote, certain, um, I want to say essays, but no, like, like stories or
Mhm.
essays or whatever, wherever you are, and you see the progress of like, oh, this is how I dealt with these people. This is how I dealt with that. And that has caused me to then shift. So I think it lands in both. And I don't think either is wrong. I think being open to others, without, look, I know there's times, and it depends on who tells you and how it's said. To me, I've always said, you can say anything to me as long as it's said in a certain way, in the sense that you aren't maybe rude about it or you're not trying to actually make me feel bad. It's just like, oh, you're a really good friend. And you're just saying, hey, by the way, this is what I'm noticing, you know, then I can actually take that and do something. But if it's somebody who just feels like telling, and especially with the social media world that I've been saying, like
Sure.
people just tell you so many things online. And I'm like, that's not helpful because I bet if you were actually in front of me, you would shift the way that you would speak to me. Right. And so I think that is where that balance is of knowing when you're allowed to say something. And I say allowed, but I mean, like, be conscious. Is it worth actually saying that? It kind of goes back to what the saying of like, my mom always told me, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it.
Yep.
I don't fully just say don't say it. I just think that if it's actually something that you care about the person and you want to help them, now it depends on what that relationship is. Is that person actually going to take your word a little bit like gospel to be able to be like, oh, maybe I can be introspective and change and shift. So I think it's those balancing acts that we're always playing with, especially if you want to be an entrepreneur and a business owner and just move up where you are now not only affecting yourself, but you're affecting so many people and so many lives. And I think that's another huge pillar for me is knowing that other people's lives are being affected by what I'm doing.
Well, as you're moving, it sounds like you're saying, tell me if I'm on point, that reimagining is essentially, I wouldn't even say essentially, reimagining is a lifelong journey. And there's got to be times where everything's not unicorns and rainbows, whether you chose it and it's a little bit tougher than you thought, or oh crap, it came out of left field forced. What advice would you have, for lack of a better way to say it, to keep on keeping on in those times when it's like, I know I'll end up in a good place, but right now it's not so hot. What advice do you have for keeping on in those times?
I think I tell everybody have that day of mourning essentially, right? I allow myself to have that day if something is just not working and I'm just like, man, I'm not booking, I'm not getting these things. I'm just going to sit and just pout all day and cry and stay inside and just like, I let myself do that because again, it might sound woo woo, but I feel like it releases, right? We're humans as far as like energetically too. And it releases this energy that allows you to clear the path to be able to move forward and be like, okay, now what am I going to do? So I allow myself to go fully there. And then of course, with helps of my friends and people I trust, that then I could be like, okay, what can I do? What now can I learn? Where can I shift within my power? Now, granted, right? Like, I don't think it's worth your thought of being like, well, if only they would blah blah blah, like if only
Oh,
they would choose me. Like that that's not in my control. What I do have control of is my work and how my work represents me. And that I think is what then pushes me outside that. And so for any entrepreneur, it's have your moment, have your day, and then if you're somebody who likes to write a list of what are the next steps. What do you need to do? And then just work down the list. If don't get overwhelmed with being I have to do all of these things. That's why I love lists, because I get very anxious and very overwhelmed easily without them. And somebody who does so much and my brain is all over the place, I'm doing this job and then that job. And then I have an actor hat and I have a producer hat and I have a, negotiator hat. Like there's so many things in my brain that the list really, really helps. And so that's what I would tell any entrepreneur. Have your day, write your list, check it off.
this has been awesome. We've covered a lot of ground in a really short period of time. When it comes to reimagining yourself, whether it's something you said you want to reiterate or maybe something you haven't touched on yet, someone watching or listens like, okay, I get it. I love this. I want to do it. If you were to say, if you want to reimagine yourself, at least do this one thing. At least do this one thing. What would you tell them to do?
I would say that's a hard question. There's so many things, but I would say at least be open and truthful about where you are and be willing to grow.
That is awesome. And if people want to find you online, where's the best place or places to go?
So I tend to spend more time on, even though I'm on Facebook and Twitter or X now, sorry, aging myself, and X and Instagram. Instagram is kind of where I spend more of my time if I get on, and that is at Here Is Natalia.
Thank you so much, Natalia. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Mark.
And scene.
Scene.